Tonight's scripture reading will be from Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 6. Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 6. Now the whole earth had one language and the same words. And as people migrated from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar and settled there. And they said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." And they had a brick for stone and bitumen for mortar. Then they said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the heavens, and let us make a name for ourselves, lest we be dispersed over the face of the whole earth." And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of man had built. And the Lord said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is only the beginning of what they will do. And nothing they propose to do will now be impossible for them." Please be seated.
August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King Jr. stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and from that position delivered a speech that contributed to change in our nation. I think most of you are probably familiar at least with a portion of that famous speech where he said, "I have a dream. It's a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. A dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. A dream that one day little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers." The goal of tonight's lesson has nothing to do with race relations in America. How far we've come, how much work that still needs to be done in that area. Again, that's not the goal. Here's what I want you to think about. I want you to think about the power of one man's dream. I don't think anybody could deny that King's dream had a dramatic impact on this nation. 1 year after that historic and unforgettable speech, this nation passed the 1964 Civil Rights Act, which made racial discrimination in public places, theaters, restaurants, hotels, it made it illegal. It also required employers to provide equal employment opportunities for minorities. One man with a dream changed a nation. I want you to think about your dreams tonight. Every year in October, and I know that we didn't do it as we've done it in the past, but we have what we call a Dream Sunday. When I first got here in 2004, elders went into every adult Bible class one Sunday morning in October, and they did it every year for a long time. And they listened to the dreams of the members of this congregation. I think that's a powerful thing. I think it's a great thing that the elders are interested in your dreams, that they want to hear your dreams. I think it's important to encourage God's people to dream great dreams. What are your dreams? What hopes and aspirations do you have for yourself? I'm just, for just a second, I'm thinking I'm 50 years old and I still dream like when I was a kid. I still dream about things I want to do with my life. I still feel passionate about this ministry. I still get excited about what God is doing and all the things that He could do in my life and through this ministry. What are your dreams tonight? What are the dreams that you have for yourself? for your marriage, for your children, for this church family? Are you a dreamer? There's an idea that your dream can't come true until you have the courage to dream it. There's so many people that are just going through the motions, doing what they've always done, never thinking about, as good as things are, that they could do something measurably better, that God could work in your life in some remarkable way. Use your imagination. Dream. And dream big dreams. Tonight, I want you to be thinking about the idea that one dreamer with a dream can change the world. We're starting, if you got an outline tonight, that Paul had a dream for his ministry. I don't remember, I think I was in a college class at Oklahoma Christian when this passage was brought to my attention in Romans 15 and verse 20. Paul said, "It has always been my ambition to preach the gospel where Christ was not known, so that I would not be building on someone else's foundation." He didn't dream about going to the biggest congregation, the strongest church in places that had been most fully converted. He didn't dream about going to the center of the strongest place where the gospel had been preached and God's people were, strong and many of them. And he wanted to go to a place where people hadn't even heard about Jesus and tell people who had never heard the good news. He wanted to go into the darkest places and take the light of Jesus Christ to lost and dying people. That's why he exposed himself to all kinds of dangers and hardships. We read about shipwrecks and imprisonments and stonings and beatings and all these amazing things. His life was this incredible adventure because the man had a dream, and it was worth all the hardship and all of the suffering to establish new congregations in unconquered territory. His travels took him all over the ancient world. You remember the Areopagus in Athens, that all they did was discuss new ideas, and he had an idea they hadn't heard before, and they ridiculed him, but he stood there and preached Christ to them. He started a riot at the temple of Diana in Artemis. He was put in stocks and imprisoned in Philippi. He was nearly stoned to death outside of Lystra, was arrested in the temple at Jerusalem. He endured a hurricane and a shipwreck in Malta. Here's a man that preached before kings and governors and soldiers. Missionary journeys produced congregations in cities. And we now have letters that he wrote back to those churches in Ephesus and Philippi and Galatia and Thessalonica and Corinth. I want you to think about how the power of one man's dream changed the landscape of the ancient world and helped to spread faith in Jesus Christ. Remember what Jesus said in Jerusalem and Judea, Samaria, uttermost parts of the earth. Paul's dream helped to bring that commission into a reality. I want to talk to young people tonight. I know a lot of our young people are sitting over here. You're never too young to have a dream. I want you to think seriously about what I just said. You're not too young to start dreaming great dreams about the way that God can work in your life. 1 Timothy 4:12, don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example for believers in speech, in life, in love, in faith, in purity. You're just a teenager. You're just, in some cases, a little boy and a little girl. And why should anybody pay attention to your dreams? Let me tell you something. Your dreams are powerful. And when you dream great dreams to do wonderful things, God's power can work in your life in amazing ways. I brought 2 books in here with me tonight. One is called Trevor's Place, the story of a boy who brings hope to the homeless. He was 11 years old. He lived in a suburb of Philadelphia. One night he saw a news report on TV that there were homeless people in the inner city, and he couldn't believe it. He thought everybody lived the way he lived. He couldn't imagine that there was anybody that didn't have a warm, comfortable home, a bed to sleep in, a pillow, and blankets. His parents took him downtown. He refused to go to bed that night, took his own pillow off his bed and took it downtown. They talked about, he got out of the car, and when he started walking towards one of the homeless people, they locked the doors. 11 years old, and there's a place in the inner city, Trevor's Place, a home for the homeless. He had a dream when he was 11 years old. And I don't think this quote is original with him, but it's attributed to him. At least he used it at one point. I'm only one, but at least I'm one. I can't do everything. I can do something. It's amazing what young people can do when they have a dream. Some of you have met Jerry and Fern Hill. Their son Timothy died when he was 13 years old. He was riding his bike to school and got hit by a truck, and he died. But when he was a little boy, very young in his life, only 13 years old when he died, he was already teaching Bible classes. And he loved to camp, and he loved horses. And he had a dream, wouldn't it be great if there was a place where people in the inner city could come to the country. They could learn to ride a horse. They could learn about our life in the country. And, after he died, his parents pursued that dream. Timothy Hill Children's Ranch. They talk about that ministry, and it's called Transforming Lives Through Love. Here are young people, all kinds of troubled situations that come because a 13-year-old boy, before he died at such a young age, had a dream that people in the inner city could come out and learn about his life and his passion, horses and farming, and they're still transforming lives through love. So many people here tonight know Mac Lyon. I wonder if you know that he grew up at a time that very few people, they didn't have internet, they didn't have television. The way he told the story, very few of them had a radio. But when he was 14 years old, his father bought a radio and brought it home, and Mac started listening to gospel preaching every Sunday. He mentioned an evangelist, W.L. Oliphant, that was preaching out of Dallas, Texas, and Mac said he had no idea how far Dallas was from his family's farmhouse in rural Oklahoma. In his own words, he said, "I just knew it was a long, long way by horseback. And yet I could sit out there at the end of the dirt road and I could hear the gospel preached in a powerful way in my home." And he said, that just overwhelmed me. One night that summer, after listening to a sermon, he got down on his knees, a 14-year-old boy, and he prayed. He said, I prayed to the Lord that if he would let me live to be an adult, I would give my life to preaching the gospel using the radio. Some 80 years later, the search program started by Mac Lyon marked its 40th anniversary. Search of the Lord's Way started on a small NBC affiliate in Ada, Oklahoma, September 1980. In 1982, that ministry moved to Oklahoma City. That search program has expanded to over 100 broadcast stations, 130 public cable access stations, 50 radio stations, 5 satellite networks. Those statistics may not be 100% accurate because they're somewhat dated, but think about a 14-year-old boy and all the good that came because he had a dream. Don't let anybody look down on you because you're young. Don't let them diminish your dream. Some of the dreams you have for your life could change the world. Some of your dreams could strengthen God's church and make sure that there is a church here in this place in the future. You're never too old to have a dream. I know where the teenagers are. I looked right at them. I'm afraid to look up. Somebody say, he said, you're never too old, and he looked right at me. I like to think about Caleb and Joshua, only 2 spies who brought back a positive report and believed that God would help them conquer the land of Canaan. The only two men from their generation permitted by God to go into the promised land after wandering for 40 years in the wilderness. And Caleb makes this request in Joshua 14, 10 through 12. Caleb goes to Joshua. He says, "Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since the time he said this to Moses while Israel moved about in the desert. Here I am, 85 years old. I'm still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then." And then he makes this request or this demand: "Give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard that the Anakites were there. Their cities are large and fortified, but the Lord helping me, I will drive them out just as he said." Caleb was 85 years old. He still remembered the promise the Lord had made to him, that God would one day give him the hill country with its large and fortified cities. And he never forgot that promise. And at the age of 85, he was still dreaming about driving out the inhabitants and taking possession of that land. Some of you know Burton Kaufman. You've met him. Some of you have only read the commentaries that he wrote. There may be some that have never even heard the name. Man wrote a commentary on every book of the Bible. He's not the only author with that distinction. I know Albert Barnes did it, Adam Clark did it, Matthew Henry did it. I'm sure in more recent years others have done it. So what's the big deal? Well, Kaufman wrote the first volume of his commentaries when he was 60 years old. A lot of people are winding down their life's work around that age. They're moving into a retirement mindset. He launched into a great work at the age of 60. Spent the next 30 years of his life studying and writing. By the time he completed the last volume in the series, he was 89 years old. Died in 2006 at the age of 101. Left a legacy of scholarship behind. I remember Bill Smith told me one time, "Tim, you need to make sure to write. If you write, you can preach even after you die." He talked about the passage in Hebrews 11:4 about Abel, "He though dead yet speaks." You know, there's a sense in which if you have that set of commentaries and you read those books and learn from his study, he's still working in the world today through the things that he wrote. That's amazing. If you have health and strength, there's so many ways I think it's true that age is just a number. People are living longer lives and they're healthier later into their lives. I don't know that I'm always going to be a pulpit preacher. But I hope that as long as I'm alive and as long as I'm healthy, I hope that there will be a place for me in ministry. And I pray that I'll always be a dreamer. I don't think that we should look down on young people and tell them that they're too young to start dreaming. I don't think we have any right to look at older people and say, "Hey, don't you think it's time to stop dreaming?" Some of the great things you do for the Lord, you may do later in your life. You're never too insignificant to have a dream. In the book of Judges, chapter 6, verses 14 and 15, this is the angel of the Lord that came to Gideon and said, "Go in strength. Go in the strength you have. Save Israel out of Midian's hand. Am I not sending you?" And I want you to listen to what Gideon said. That the Lord said, "Go, am I not sending you?" And he said, "But Lord, how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I'm the least in my family. I'm a nobody." I hope nobody here tonight makes that mistake. To think that maybe those around you come from better families, maybe they're more equipped. Maybe they can have a great dream for God, but not somebody like me. It's been a privilege to be in the teen class the last couple of Wednesday nights. And one of the teenagers, as we were studying some difficult concepts, said, "I don't understand that." And I said, I want you to know, if you feel like that I used to be the kid in the class that didn't understand anything that everybody else was talking about. We came to church later in our childhood. I remember going home talking about Bible Bill. He knew the answer to every question in class. That blew our mind. We couldn't believe it. We didn't know anybody could know that much about the Bible. And at that time in our lives, we weren't interested in knowing as much as he did, but we were amazed by it. I never could have envisioned that God would do the things that he's done and bless me in the ways that he has to be a preacher for a great church like this church. You're not insignificant in the eyes of God. You count, and your dreams matter to him. I don't know this lady. All I know is I read this story in the Christian Chronicle probably over 10 years ago, maybe longer than that. Deanne Bloom made her first trip to Russia in 1994. She went to St. Petersburg with a Let's Start Talking campaign and taught Russians who wanted to improve their English skills by using an English version of the Bible as a textbook. It's when she began dreaming about living in Russia as a missionary. One seasoned veteran of mission work told her, "Deanne, you can't speak the language. There's no full-time missionary there. You don't have any training in mission work. You'd be all alone. You can't go to Russia and stay there by yourself." But even though she faced a lot of discouraging comments like that, she refused to give up on her dream. She's had to overcome depression and hip replacement surgery and culture shock. She's become one of the most experienced and valuable Christian workers in Russia. And she's convinced that God can use anyone who's willing to serve him. In that article, she said, look at me. Divorced, single, old, a woman. If I'd thought about all the reasons why I couldn't do this, I would never have come. Lots of people didn't think I could do this. It took me 4 years to convince myself I could do it. Call me hard-headed or tenacious, but I won't give up. Other people may tell you that your dream is impossible, or they may tell you it's a great dream, but you're not the person to accomplish it. That God needs someone else. Someone who knows the Bible better, someone who's lived a different kind of life than the one you've lived, that it may be a good dream, but you're not the person. Don't listen to people that try to take away your dream. There's something about Genesis 11, the passage that Chris read, that is really disturbing to me. I'm going to read it to you again, the first 6 verses as we conclude. The whole world had one language and a common speech. As the men moved eastward, they found a plain in Shinar and settled there. They said to each other, "Come, let us make bricks and bake them thoroughly." They used brick instead of stone and tar for mortar. They said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole world." But the Lord came down to see the city and the tower the men were building. The Lord said, "If as one people speaking the same language they've begun to do this, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them." These people were not dreaming a dream for God. for the glory of God. They were dreaming of self-glorification. They were exalting themselves, I think in some ways, over God instead of God. And so this is not the kind of dream that we encourage, but I want you to hear what God said. He said that even wicked people can plan and imagine and visualize and communicate and agree, and their dreams can come true. That's disturbing to me. It's disturbing to me that people can come together to accomplish something wicked, to accomplish something hateful and destructive. They can dream terrible dreams of learning how to fly a plane just well enough to fly it into the World Trade Center and destroy so many people and their lives. They can dream about parking a truck full of a bomb in a truck down by, the federal building here in Oklahoma City. People can get together and dream together and plan together to do terrible things. And I want you to understand tonight that wicked men do dream. And that's why righteous people must dream. We must dream great dreams, impossible dreams, dreams that could never come true if we don't look to the resources of God the Father and Jesus Christ, our resurrected Lord, and the Holy Spirit and the inspired word that God has given us. To dream dreams without the Godhead and without the Word and without all the resources of the church in the world today, they'd be impossible. As you look to the next year, some dreams are so simple. Some have never read the Bible for themselves. Why don't you dream about that? Dream about what it would be like to have a daily walk with God. We talked this morning about the idea of atonement, that you can have a relationship with God. Think about what it would be like to wake up every morning and start your day with God and spend your day with God and do nothing all day but check in with the Father. This incredible relationship is available to all of us. Why don't you dream about ways that you can bring God into everyday life? You realize that there are churches with great history, every bit as good as the history of this church, that no longer exist. People stop dreaming and they give up on their commitment. They drift away. I think we need to dream dreams about commitment to the local church. I think it's about time to come home again, for us to be together, to worship together. Not just Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, but as we think about restoration of New Testament Christianity and we see that they were together daily, that we need to dream about ways to increase the depth of our fellowship and build this fellowship so that years from now, there's still a legacy of faith in this place. Have you ever led one soul to Christ? Have you ever even tried? Could you dream a dream of just one person? A father or a mother, a brother or sister, a son or daughter? A couple weeks ago, I wrote the front page article of the newsletter. I think it was at the end of 2019. I was making plans, goals for 2020. One of the things I wrote down was I want to teach my son the gospel this year. And we started some of that in 2020, and we continued that this year. What a dream come true. Why don't you dream about somebody you love? Somebody that you care about. Share the gospel with them. Let that be your dream this year. Think about besetting sins. that so easily entangle us, these things that we've done so many times, they become ingrained habits, and they're keeping us from being all that God wants us to be. How about you dream about getting free from that sin? That next year in 2022, the dream is to finally be free. You fill in the blank. I don't know what the sin in your life is. But if there's some besetting sin that's been a part of your life for years, you can't remember a time when you didn't struggle, why don't you start dreaming about what it would be like to be free from that sin? There's some families here at North MacArthur that have dreamed about going on a mission trip with everybody in their family, and they've done it. Grandparents have gone on mission trips with their grandchildren. Parents have gone on trips with a son or a daughter. Why don't you dream about going to some mission point and traveling with your own family? We supported a family here when I first got here, the Jensens, George and Joy, and I think they had 2 sons and 2 daughters, and we supported them for a long time. We didn't just support a couple, we supported a whole team. I mean, that was an amazing family of Christians. You might dream about your giving goals. What do you want to give to the Lord? I think those dreams are important. You know the story of the widow's mite. And I wonder if you realize how much good has been done by poor people, by poor widows who dreamed of making a difference by taking from what little they had but giving it to the Lord. And having faith not only that God would take care of them if they gave what little they had, but that God could take their little and do much good. That inspires me. And it ought to inspire you to dream these kinds of dreams. Some are hanging on to the dream that God will heal your marriage and your family. It's an important dream. I hope some of our young people and some of our visitors dream about the day that they make the good confession and that you're baptized into Jesus Christ. There are different ways to be a soul winner. There's sharing the gospel and teaching people about the plan of salvation, but you can also restore those who have wandered. You can dream about ways that you can help this congregation be stronger and healthier by recognizing those who used to be here but they're not here anymore. Reaching out to them in love and helping them to be restored into fellowship with God. There are people here who had dreams about having a recovery program for addicts and alcoholics, and that dream came true. We have a program here. I love that we have new members that came with a dream and said we want to do a community breakfast every month and meet our community and feed people and help people who are hungry, people who are poor. What are your dreams? What can you do and what do you want to do? I hope some will dream about serving as an elder, serving as a deacon, serving as a missionary. I want to say that there are very distinct roles in the church. And there are a lot of people don't like all of this, that it's the husband of one wife, and there's male spiritual leadership, and men are to speak in public places, and men are elders, and men are deacons. But then you say, how about you could be a Christian wife or mother? Can I tell you there's something glorious about that? That something that makes the world a better place and strengthens the home and blesses the church. I was at a funeral on Friday for Betty Henry. She was a force to be reckoned with. She was a godly woman. And you know what her career was? She was a wife. She was a mother. She raised 2 boys that loved the Lord. That's not a wasted life. I'm not saying that Christian women can't dream bigger dreams than that, but I'm saying there's nothing wrong with that dream. There is nothing wrong with being a godly woman that brings Christ into the heart of your sons and into your daughters' hearts and raising them to be pure and holy, followers of Jesus and lovers of God. What a great dream to have a Christian family. Some have dreamed about writing books that others would read, writing songs that others would sing, living lives that others can follow. I want to encourage you to dream great dreams. Write them down. Maybe when you go home tonight, you actually take a few minutes to pray about your life, to write down some of your dreams for the future, and to pray about those dreams. For a long time, I had a dream. I remember I could bring my high school yearbook where one guy wrote, "Remember us when you get to the NBA." Now that's funny. And I was going to play basketball. When I couldn't play basketball, I was going to coach basketball. And somewhere in my early 20s, my dream shifted. And all my dreams started to center around the gospel, about sharing the gospel with the lost, about preaching and teaching and encouraging. What a dream. What a remarkable dream. Sometimes people have been concerned about me because I preach and I offer the invitation and nobody comes. I'll just tell you, that doesn't diminish the dream. Every week I stand up here and I extend the invitation. It is not mine. It is the invitation of Jesus. And I dream about what it would be like for those who have never obeyed to hear and respond. I felt that way when I was in my mid-20s and started in this ministry. I think when I'm a little old man, if God allows me to live that long, when I stand to preach, it'll still be the same dream. That somebody, like my family was so many years ago, somebody who'd never had the opportunity to know Christ, would hear about Him, would love Him, and come to Him. And I'll just tell you, that's a dream that never dies. There's somebody here tonight, there always is, who needs the Lord. Hope you'll come to Him now as we stand and sing.